Welcome to another episode of the Open Borders and Bail Reform podcast. I'm your host, Emily Rutherford, and in today's episode, we'll be taking a closer look at bail reform success stories from around the United States. We'll explore how different regions have effectively implemented bail reform, the challenges they faced, and the incredible outcomes they achieved. By examining the strategies employed and the outcomes achieved in these jurisdictions, we hope to identify key lessons that can inform bail reform efforts elsewhere. In 2017, New Jersey implemented a groundbreaking bail reform initiative that virtually eliminated the state's cash bail system. The reform was driven by concerns about the disproportionate impact of cash bail on low-income defendants and the high costs of pretrial detention. Under the new system, New Jersey replaced cash bail with a risk assessment tool known as the Public Safety Assessment, PSA. The PSA evaluates defendants' likelihood of appearing for trial and their risk of committing a new crime if released. Judges use this information, along with other relevant factors, to make pretrial release decisions. Since implementing the reform, New Jersey has seen a significant reduction in its jail population without compromising public safety. The pretrial jail population decreased by 44% in the first year alone, and the state has maintained a low rate of new criminal activity among individuals released pretrial. New Jersey's experience demonstrates that moving away from a cash bail system is not only feasible, but can lead to positive outcomes for defendants and communities alike. Washington, D.C. has been at the forefront of bail reform for decades, having operated without a cash bail system since the 1960s. Instead, the district relies on a comprehensive pretrial services program run by the Pretrial Services Agency, PSA. The PSA is responsible for conducting risk assessments of defendants, making release recommendations to the court, and providing supervision and support services to individuals released pretrial. The agency uses a variety of assessment tools and considers factors such as a defendant's criminal history, community ties, and substance abuse or mental health needs. One of the key features of the PSA's approach is its emphasis on connecting defendants with services and resources to address underlying needs and reduce the likelihood of future criminal activity. This can include referrals to substance abuse treatment, mental health counseling, or employment assistance programs. The PSA's model has proven highly effective, with consistently high rates of court appearance and low rates of new criminal activity among released defendants. In 2019, for example, 88% of defendants released pretrial made all scheduled court appearances, and only 12% were rearrested on new charges while in the community. Washington, D.C.'s long-standing pretrial services model offers valuable lessons for jurisdictions seeking to move away from cash bail and towards a more equitable and effective pretrial system. In 2018, California passed landmark legislation known as SB 10, which aimed to eliminate cash bail in the state. The bill was hailed as a major step towards bail reform, but its implementation has been delayed due to a referendum challenge. Under SB 10, California's cash bail system would be replaced by a risk assessment-based pretrial release system. Judges would use a validated risk assessment tool to evaluate defendants' likelihood of appearing for trial and their risk of committing a new crime if released. Low-risk defendants would be released on their own recognizance, while higher-risk defendants would be subject to pretrial supervision or detention. The legislation also called for the expansion of pretrial services across the state to provide supervision and support to individuals released pretrial. These services could include regular check-ins, electronic monitoring, or referrals to community-based programs. Proponents of SB 10 argue that the reform would reduce the disproportionate impact of cash bail on low-income communities and communities of color while maintaining public safety. However, opponents, including some bail industry groups and law enforcement organizations, have raised concerns about the potential costs and the effectiveness of risk assessment tools. To discuss the potential impact of SB 10 and the challenges of implementing bail reform on a large scale, in the next episodes, we will be joined by a legal expert and reform advocate. Key provisions of SB 10 include replacing cash bail with risk assessments to determine pretrial release, investing in pretrial services to support and supervise released individuals, expanding community-based alternatives to detention to reduce reliance on incarceration. The debate surrounding risk assessment tools is crucial, as critics argue they could perpetuate biases present in the criminal justice system. Proponents, however, emphasize that with proper implementation and oversight, these tools can help create a fairer, more equitable system. Additionally, investing in pretrial services and community-based alternatives to detention is essential for the success of bail reform, ensuring that individuals receive the support they need to comply with court requirements and avoid reoffending. California's experience highlights the complex challenges of achieving bail reform, even with strong legislative support. As the state continues to navigate this process, it will be important to learn from the successes and failures of other jurisdictions, and to prioritize the voices of impacted communities. Throughout today's episode, we've explored several examples of successful bail reform initiatives. While each jurisdiction has taken a unique approach, there are some common themes and strategies that emerge. One key lesson is the importance of moving away from a reliance on cash bail and towards a risk-based approach to pretrial release decisions. By using validated risk assessment tools and considering factors beyond a defendant's ability to pay, jurisdictions can make more informed and equitable release decisions. Another critical component of successful bail reform is the expansion of pretrial services. By providing supervision and support to individuals released pretrial, these programs can help ensure court appearance and reduce the likelihood of new criminal activity. Effective pretrial services often involve a combination of regular check-ins, electronic monitoring, and referrals to community-based resources, such as substance abuse treatment or job training programs. Successful bail reform initiatives also prioritize stakeholder collaboration and community engagement. This can include working closely with law enforcement, judges, and other criminal justice system actors to build support for reform and address concerns. It also means involving impacted communities and individuals in the reform process to ensure that their voices are heard and their needs are met. Finally, ongoing evaluation and adjustment are essential to the success of any bail reform effort. By collecting data on pretrial release outcomes, court appearance rates, and new criminal activity, jurisdictions can identify areas for improvement and make data-driven decisions about policy and practice. As we've seen, bail reform is a complex and challenging process, but the success stories highlighted today demonstrate that it is possible to create a more just and equitable pretrial system. By learning from these examples and adapting best practices to local contexts, jurisdictions across the country can work towards a fairer and more effective approach to pretrial justice. Today's episode has showcased how different regions have successfully implemented bail reform, reducing jail populations and promoting public safety. We've highlighted the importance of risk assessment tools, pretrial services, and community collaboration in these efforts. The ongoing need for public engagement and advocacy is crucial to support and improve bail reform initiatives, ensuring a more just and equitable justice system for all. If today's conversation inspired you, get involved in local advocacy groups or educate yourself further on bail reform and its impacts. Your voice and actions can help drive the necessary changes towards a fairer system. Thank you for joining us for this insightful episode of the Open Borders and Bail Reform podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and tune in next time as we continue to break down complex justice and policy issues shaping our world. Together, we can make a difference.